The old school method to replace ball joints were to take a C-clamp, place a socket there, and then another socket here, and just press them out. This takes time, and my time is worth the money, so I purchased this kit, and we're going to see how this plays out. With tools that one's going to apply air to, it's very important that we always add some anti-seize to it. These threads will wear out, and we want to minimize. This particular set uses a 22 millimeter. To remove the grease fitting at 5/16, it's a little better fit than an 8. So we can see inside. There's a disc and there's a disc. This spacer, I don't like using it because it's only going to give me about 3/16 of a push. Now we're going to need to find some way to press against here. I took the larger nut off the bottom and I'm going to put it here. Try to give me some more clearance from the nut from the bottom and the wrench as a spacer. This is how I'm making this work. This nut here I took from the bottom one and I placed as a spacer here, because if I use this spacer from the kit, it's going to get stuck on the ball joint. I don't want that to happen. This old nut, I don't care. Then I stuck a wrench in here to give me some space because this nut won't center onto the tool. You need to make sure that the ball joint comes down to make sure it's centered. And I use a small screwdriver to leverage. See how that nut is stuck on there? It's not going to come off of there. I do not want that tool to get stuck on there. Use an inspection mirror and confirm that it's going to the center. Next step, I'm going to clean this up with a Dremel. I'm going to clean all this up in here as well. I'm going to blow air from the differential to get the dirt out from inside here. Here's what I did. I took a piece of hose and I taped it to a air fitting, and then I shoved the hose in the differential to blow air out the axle. So I wire wheeled the inside and outside. I started with the die grinder, and then when I couldn't get with that, I used a Dremel with a small wire wheel to get the inside. The upper and the lower for the 2004 four-wheel drive. Comparing the new with the old. The new one has a finer thread pitch than the old one. This grease fitting right here, I'm going to orientate it towards the front and slightly inward. That way it's easy for me to access. Put a little water displacement in there. So here's the problem that I'm having, is that this spacer won't fit. I can do it this way, but it won't fit either. I need a clamp that's about 2 inches wider. So I'm wondering if these come greased already, or do I need to grease them after I get them installed? Five sixteenths. I do not believe this is a good set for using with Dodges. So if I set this to press right here, and then I put this on the back side so it'll fit, the clamp is too small. I removed the Zerk fitting so I can get a wrench in here. The clamp's not big enough for me to use the components. 13 millimeters, 15 millimeter. It's not even. I got my ratchet on top here. I'm using a wrench as a spacer, so it equals out the pressure on both sides of the ball joint. And I'm using the fitting with the cut in the back. Always double check and make sure the ball joint's going to clear. So here's our ball joint, right? And we don't want to press here because it'll push it in. We want to press on this ridge or this ridge. And this fits perfectly right here, but I do not have the height down there. The ID on this is 2 inches. So in theory, I can take a piece of 2-inch carbon steel pipe and fabricate myself a tool that's half this height, which means to clear that, so what is this, 3/4 inches? So I can build something like this with 2-inch pipe, about 3/4 long, weld a plate on it, and call it good. Okay, let's put the knuckle back on. I put some blue Loctite on both these already. An issue here. So I did that. With the upper, we don't want to forget to put this bracket on. With these castle nuts, we put in a cotter pin. My philosophy with these cotter pins, put them in from front to rear. After tightening this to 40 foot-pounds, turn the nut 90 degrees. Points that way, I know I'm done. There, 1/4, 90 degrees. Okay, so when I put this shaft back in, I'm going to want to keep it centered all the way in there so I don't scrape any dirt and put it into the differential. Make sure this hole is on top. I was having problems closing this gap, so I removed the hub, rotated the shaft, and did it again, and it came right on. Apparently, that match of splines was not agreeing with each other. So does this nonsense make sense? Does that make any sense at all? To stick a bar in there and hope for the best? I put a little blue Loctite on there. When installing something like this, I like to use a stubby because it prevents me from over torquing. This might be easier to install if I put the interior pad on first. I need to compress the piston so it's easy fit to get the caliper back over the rotor. So I took a flat bar, placed over both pistons, and then a C-clamp, and that worked pretty good. This rotor tends to rock back and forth when trying to put on the caliper, so I put a clamp here to hold the rotor steady. Caliper bolts, 132 inch-pounds. The torque is 263. Oh man, that's just barely over. So the question is, do I back it off to get the pin in, or do I tighten it even more to get the pin in? Hole doesn't line up. After installing the ball joints, don't forget to grease them.